Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven development video. Today is November 23rd. I'm picking up where I left off yesterday in the last episode. And what I was doing was writing some tests about a save menu dialog. Um, I think I have that working. Or yes, I remember I had that to the point where I could actually test to see if the dialog was displayed. The test has got some fairly significant flaws in that it's not cleaning up after itself properly. Um, at the same time, the fact that it's not cleaning up after itself isn't really causing a problem yet. And rather than beat my head against this further, because I feel like I've beat my head against it as much as I possibly can for now, um, I'm gonna allow that flaw to continue existing. And this is something I do sometimes when I'm programming, is I solve what I know how to solve today, and I accept that it's not going to be perfect. And the reason that works for me is because I do know that over time, if I keep coming back to the flawed piece, I will figure out a way. And sometimes it can take months before I figure out a solution, but a solution will eventually come along. So the goal is to leave the code better than you found it every time, and to do the best you know how. That doesn't mean you have to beat your head against the wall forever in search of perfection, because that's really not obtainable. And in the case of UI and in the case of code I write, it may be less attainable than it is for you. So we're saying the dialog should be displayed. Now we are displaying dialog, but the test is failing, and the reason is that we have the wrong reference. We're building a file dialog here, and we're building one here. Really what we need to do is get access to that dialog. So I'm going to pause the video, do a little research into how to do that. I want to do something like we do here in new menu items to create a new window, where we somehow figure out how many dialogues there are, and that has increased by one and is visible. So back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. I found a method on the window class called getOwnWindows that looks like it might be appropriate. I think if I call that on the frame, I'll go to a list of the sub-windows of the frame, and the dialog is supposed to be a sub-window of the frame. So let's see how that works. I'm actually going to back up a little bit rather than just to reduce the number of variables happening here. I'm going to comment this back out and continue spiking directly in my test. So I've got the test creating a dialog, and then sorry. So I'm creating the dialog here, and I'm spacing out a little bit here. So yeah, I'm going to create the dialog here and then test it here. I'm going to start out just getting things back to the point where they were working. I lost track of the thread of things here. Yes, this is a dialog, and it's final. And this oh, it can't be defined. Right. So I guess we'll just do it the way we were doing it. And then we'll say dialog dot set visible true. And that should pass. It'll take a moment for Eclipse to catch up. Okay. There, that worked. And then if I take this out, the test should fail. As an aside, the test fails fairly slowly, but which is okay. I'm okay with taking a long time when they fail, but I want them to run past quickly, which is why I don't wait a second all the time. So also that would be a race condition. So although I guess in a way we still have a race condition, but 1,000 milliseconds should be enough. So now what I'm going to do is, rather than referring to dialog directly here, I want to use that window.getOwnedWindows. Kind of just sneaking up with the problem. Oh, geez. Okay. So rather than referring to the dialog directly, now what I want to do is look at getOwnedWindows. So I'm going to say frame getOwnedWindows. And to make this simpler, just for the purposes of this spike, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a simple sleep for 1 second, because that's long enough for the dialog to pop up. So before, how many windows did we have? And then after, how many windows did we have? What I'm trying to do here is I just don't have confidence that I understand how this method works, so I'm exploring it a little bit to understand that better. And then I'll use my test to give me a message about what the values are. So before, after is before, after is after. Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Before 1, after 1. Oh, well, we could have again, a race condition. Let's do it before we actually invoke. Still before. Let's do it before we even create the dialog. There we go. Okay, so creating the dialog increments the value. Now this I'm going to put back down here, which means this can go here. And this actually doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah, before 0, after 1, that's great. Now, rather than doing this, let's assert that, so our dialog is going to be going to be owned windows dot length minus 1 to the last one. I don't think there's a convenience method to just give us the last one. No, there's not. So, and we want to assert that that's visible. Okay, good. Okay, so this is working now. Now it's still made more complex by this need to wait for the method, but that's all right. So let's take a look in the test code, in the assert class. Is there a test that will basically assert that something happens within a given amount of time? I don't see it. There might be one using one of these matchers, but I've never really used those. They've always struck me as more complicated than they were worth. So looks like I'm going to have to write my own assertion that something happens within a certain amount of time. So to start with, I think what I want to do, if I take this set visible out, the test should fail. Yeah. Okay, so we're definitely getting really close to this. This is great. Now we have the ability to assert that the dialog has been displayed without actually having a reference to the dialog. We're using poking around inside of Swing to get access to the windows. So that's great. So we need to do this in two parts. First, we need to assert that the dialog has been created. So that is that the number of windows increases. And second, we need to assert that that the dialog has been displayed. And both of those things have to happen asynchronously, which makes this a little more complicated. So I'm going to go back to this code here. I'm going to do this in two pieces. I'm going to first assert that the number of windows has increased, and then I'm going to assert that the dialog is visible. I know I'm just recopying, but I'm kind of thinking it through as I do this. Okay, so what we want to do is say that the number of windows, which is frame.getOwnedWindows.length, that should be equal to, we've passed when number of windows is greater than initial number of windows. Of course, not passed yet is the opposite of passed. That's pretty clunky, but getting closer. And We'll start out making that fail. Yep, dialog should be created. And then we'll make it pass. Oh, it didn't pass. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. So in the next episode, we'll pick up right here and figure out what's not working here. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.